My favorite. It's Judd's Hockey Show.
And it is Judd's Hockey Show. Wild 4, Winnipeg 2, coming at you live. Appreciate all of you who are assembling to watch a show of a team that not that long ago was 10 points out of first place in the Central Division and now is in a virtual tie. Dallas does have a game in hand. 81 points for the Stars, 81 points for the Wild, 9-0-2 in their last 11. Marc-Andre Fleury, fantastic tonight. He basically won the game. Connor Hellenbach, the Jets goaltender, struggled mightily through 2 periods. He basically lost the game. A good road win, and we'll get to all of this, but we got to get to, as I see, MN Wildfan 57 has posted prayer circle for Kirill as a guy who went to Catholic school for, approximately 13 years through high school, starting in grade school. I agree completely. Unfortunately, Declan Goff, it's Judd and Declan, by the way. Unfortunately, the headline to this game is not the win. It is Kirill Kaprizov, who was, the only way I could put it, in the third period. He was sort of piled into on a hit that started fine by a guy named Logan Stanley for the Jets decks. And unfortunately, Stanley sort of completed the hit from behind. Kirill's leg and knee twisted, and it looked like he might have done something to his groin because he sort of did the splits, not expecting to. He left the ice. He tried to come back on during the next break to skate around, and then went to the locker room. But it did not look good for a guy who has not been hurt, thankfully, really at all. It did not look good.
Yeah, not the prettiest of plays there. He went down kind of awkwardly and then, just kind of got pinned on that leg. Didn't put much weight off it. Had to skate off to the locker room. The Wild were without their superstar player for basically the last 10 minutes of regulation. I was talking with you and Jesse Pierce with another episode of Judd's Hockey Show, which you can find on this YouTube channel this afternoon, about, hey, if they don't have Jonas Brodin, they're trying to get healthy and they're not rushing him back, nor should they. Jonas kind of falls in that tier 2 of guys that, man, if you don't have him for the playoffs, that's troublesome if you want to make a run. Tier 1 would obviously be Kirill Kaprizov, and we're obviously guessing here. We're still waiting a word of what exactly happened to the Wild superstar player. But yeah, unfortunately, even though it was a good win, and we'll get into plenty of stuff here today on this post-game edition of Judd's Hockey Show. Unfortunately, kind of the A topic is, what is the status of the superstar player who unfortunately left the game with 10 minutes to go in regulation?
I'm going to take a shot. Dean's going to say, I don't know a thing.
We'll see.
Looks like lower body. That's what Dean is going to say. It looks like lower body.
Sarah? I don't know.
The Wild next plays, Saturday against the Sharks in San Jose. So at least Kirill will have a few days to rest. The good thing, not to be Pollyanna about this, but the one precedent here that we do have with Kaprizov's time as a member of the Wild was the hit that he took from behind. Now, that was different in Boston. I think it was Trent Frederick delivered a cheap shot. He went in, I think, head first to the boards. It looked bad. It looked like it might be a shoulder. And he left that game, but then came right back. So he is a tough player, but when a guy's legs get bent like that, and it's disturbing to see. Obviously, yeah, you're right. If they don't have him for an extended period, a team that has to adhere to a tight checking system is going to have to adhere to an incredibly tight checking system. All right, let's get to the good news. Mm-hmm. Marc-Andre Fleury. I mean, right now, Dex, the Wild has 2 goaltenders that are just playing great. Since Fleury had that awful game against the Avs at home that the Wild should have won and they lost, he came back with a shutout in Columbus, in which he didn't really face a ton of shots, played well. But I mean, tonight, 40? The last thing I had jotted down was a season high 46 saves. It might have ultimately been more than that. Just an absolutely saved the day, saved the game performance. That was everything that Gustafsson's done. And sure. Just, it's so impressive to see him come back, and he was absolutely outstanding tonight.
Man, it's a good thing to have when Marc-Andre Fleury is now your number 2. And Philip Gustafsson obviously has been the kind of star of the show the last 2 months of the season. He's kind of come out of left field as one of the best goaltenders in the NHL. I mean, I don't think he'll get it because he doesn't get the recognition enough. But I mean, Judd, he's putting together almost a candidacy to be a finalist for the Vezina Award, for God's sake. It's with how well he has played. And maybe this has motivated Marc-Andre, right? I mean, Fleury is no stranger to losing his job. Fleury's lost his job to Matt Murray. He's been benched in the playoffs. He's been the backup for a Stanley Cup teams with the Pittsburgh Penguins before. So that's kind of actually, and we talked about this, I think, too, when the Wild acquired him a little over a year ago, that even though that happened to him at one point in his career, I think that serves him well, right? He's a guy who's decorated. He's a first ballot NHL Hall of Famer, and he's been through some trials and tribulations, the highest of highs and also the lowest of lows, and he's dug himself out like he did towards the end of Pittsburgh, goes to the Las Vegas Golden Knights, is their guy, becomes a Vezina winner again in a different uniform, and is now at let's be honest, the tail end of his career, and rightfully so. I mean, he was mulling retirement from what the reports were this summer. So the fact he's able to dig himself out of an up and down season where he got off to a horrible start in the first 2 games, kind of rebounded a little bit, and then towards the holiday, kind of hit a little bit of a wall, but recently again now is playing pretty good. This is good. These are good problems to have for the Wild. It's again reminiscent to what you've been saying about the 03 team between Manny Fernandez and Dwayne Rollison. But this time it's Marc-Andre Fleury, former Vezina winner and Cup winner, and a rookie phenom in Philip Gustafsson.
And I think the good thing here too is unlike last year when they acquired Flower, and Cam Talbot clearly started to sort of pout, and then Fleury played in the first 5 playoff games. Talbot, in his defense, was brought in far too late by game 6, but this feels like a real shared net now. And so if both guys are playing great, I don't see a downside. It would be one thing if you had a feeling that one of them was pouting about not playing more. But I will say this, as far as the image that Gustafsson portrays as a player in the room as a goaltender, Philip Gustafsson never changes. And that's not a cliche. He was the exact same last night, which was a frustrating game. That's a frustrating loss.
For sure.
Now he still played good, but it's a frustrating loss. He was the exact same last night as he was after his last stellar performance at home. And so I think between the two, and Fleury's a class act. He doesn't, I think, to your point, I think he gets it. He's older now. I'm guessing he is thrilled in some ways, as long as he feels he's playing well. I'm guessing he is absolutely thrilled because Gustafsson playing well, if you're Flower, you don't want to be playing every night or back-to-backs. So, yeah, I think this works out perfectly. Now, if Kaprizov is lost, and my guess is he's lost for a few games, hopefully it's nothing really bad, because all bets are off. I mean, this entire conversation changes if it comes out that he's done or he's out for weeks and weeks. But if he is out for a few games here too, Dex, the one thing, and just to be very clear, I'm not saying Kaprizov being hurt is good in any way, shape, or form, okay? So I just want to be very clear, because I think, as my old friend Sid used to say, the selective listeners hear things. And so this would be very bad. But the one thing about this with Dean as coach and this team is they are right now, for the most part, so geared to play their system, Declan, that it's not like you're saying, well, Kaprizov's lost and they were scoring a lot of goals, So they are, if they need to win a few games without him, I think they can, because the system is the system. And as long as they're willing to pay the price. And the other thing, and we actually saw this after Kaprizov got hurt, Matt Boldy shot the puck.
Yeah.
My God, he shot the puck, and actually he had a good shot.
Yeah.
But, Zuccarello and Boldy have to start to shoot now. But if this is going to be a short-term thing, I think you can weather the storm and still have success. The system has to be even more defined, though, because the second period, I thought the third period was really good. The second period from the Wild concerned me, and we saw this a little bit last night against Calgary, some breakdowns, 2-on-1s for tonight the Jets, or 3-on-1s or breakaways. So that system, if Kaprizov's not playing, is going to have to become even more refined. And dare I say, the Wild might have to play a more boring style. But if you can get 2 points in the springtime, I don't think you're going to complain about that too much.
Yeah, I jokingly tweeted out, I think after the first period where the Wild only had eight or nine shots,
What did Phil tweet, by the way?
He tweeted, are the Wild going to mess around and get the number one seed in the Western Conference? To what Jackson's saying right here.
Oh, okay.
To what
I got it. So it wasn't about Kirill at all. Okay,
it wasn't about. I don't think he was taking that into consideration. But I jokingly tweeted out during the first intermission that, hey, if you can convert the small chances you get stellar goaltending, you take it. You take it every time. And Winnipeg was all over Marc-Andre, but Fleury was, reminiscent of the goalie that he's been in his prime of his career tonight, and he was kind of carrying them. He did carry them to a win. And the Wild got 3 goals on a couple fluky performances from Hellebuck, who's honestly one of the best goaltenders in the NHL. And the Wild kind of were able to get a couple lucky ones past him, basically. I mean, that wasn't those weren't textbook saves and opportunities from Hellebuck. But at the end of the day, the Wild were able to get good goaltending. You convert the small chances you can get. You take that every time. To your point, if they're without Kirill here for an extended period, yeah, I mean, you can weather it to a degree. They play a system that doesn't score a ton of goals. You lose a superstar player, it's going to be a problem. But to your point, if they're still going to win these 2-1, 1-2 games where they get goals from, Marcus Foligno or Oscar Sundqvist or any of the new acquisitions they get, well, then you can kind of weather that for a bit. But if you don't have them for the playoffs,
it's over.
It's over. Yes, it's over.
See you later. Hi, Colorado. Bye, Colorado. It's done. On Foligno, second goal in 3 games. A very nice shot too. A very nice shot off of a great, I believe it was a backhand pass from Sundqvist, who impressed me tonight more than Jordan Greenway did in like the last 2 weeks or the last 2 years. But Foligno has started to play well, and that is huge to me. Like he started, and it's amazing, Declan. Foligno, you could see has started to get his confidence back. Yeah. And I mean, that's such a, and Wes Walls talked about this on Bally's telecast, though. That's such a, it seems so like, oh, yeah, okay, he scored a goal, good. But, 2 goals in 3 games. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that he had an assist as well. And you can just see that confidence from last season starting to creep back in. And if Marcus Foligno, I'm not even saying he has to go on a heater. But if Marcus Foligno can play what I would consider to be a competent game that includes an offensive punch, that's pretty huge there too. Because, I mean, Declan, we hadn't seen that in months. And now it feels like, since the goal he scored on Saturday in Calgary, that he's starting to play with a little bit more flair. He's starting to play like the guy that we saw throughout 2021-22. And, I mean, he already plays a playoff style. So if you can incorporate a few goals and some potential playmaking, that becomes very important to me.
Yeah, look, he had unsustainable metrics that we were talking about the last 2 seasons, and you knew that he wasn't going to be just this 25, 30 goal scorer that he basically was over the pace of 82 games the last 2 seasons. But he's a physical guy who can play a really good style for you on the bottom 6 role. And if he can provide some offense here, he puts himself in the right position, right time. I mean, those are good things to have, right? I mean, you need those playoff type of goals come postseason time, because that's how you're going to be able to get a lot of these opportunities. They're going to do everything they can to shut down your superstar players, and the Wild saw that a few years ago against the Knights with Kaprizov. So can guys like Foligno step up, Eriksson Ek step up, Oscar Sundqvist, who they just got? Can these other guys that are secondary that you don't think of and you might kind of sleep on to a degree if you're the opposition, those are the guys that are going to end up scoring some big time goals for you. And you're right, there just seemed to be a different amount of swagger to his game tonight. You kind of saw the old Moose. And he's not afraid to call himself out. He's not afraid to call the room out. I think that's why Bill Guerin has always really, really liked him. But you can also see when he's on the ice and he's feeling himself a little bit. And even if you don't watch a lot of hockey, you can tell that this guy's playing with confidence. And I think that's what you saw tonight against Winnipeg.
Speaking of a plan, Dex, it's also good if you're trying to drop weight to have a weight loss plan. And that gives me an opportunity to talk about my friends at Livia Weight Control Centers, who have a weight loss plan that took the guy on the left to the guy on the right. And if you're saying right now, hold on a second, that's the same guy, that's Sports Dad, that is exactly right. Down 40 pounds, dropped the weight a little over a year ago now, but here's the most important thing. This plan, as I said, it's weight control. It's not a diet. It's not a fad. It's a plan that helps you drop the weight easily, and then most importantly, keep the weight off. So if you're trying to drop weight for summer and you're saying right now I'm going to start,
Beach
but am I
season,
going
baby.
to, yeah, but I mean, sometimes you say, am I going to gain that weight back? The answer in this case is absolutely not. And have I got a deal for you? Join today and you're going to get 8 weeks for free. 8 weeks for free. Call now 855 go LIVEA or go to livea.com, livea.com. Voted Minnesota's best weight loss program, livea.com. Lose the weight and keep the weight off.
You know, you can also chow on some great popcorn, like my friends from popcorn.com here in the Metro, Judd. They're off Shady Oak Road and Highway 62, or they're just online. We have a lot of Judd's Hockey Show listeners. We got 400 people watching us right now on the Score North YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button, too, for daily Minnesota sports entertainment. And while you're losing that weight with Livea, you need a nice little healthy snack. Our friends at Popcorn can help that out to a degree. So go to popcorn.com, some great flavor options. And when you're at the checkout, mention you heard this ad on Judd's Hockey Show. It helps them out. It helps us out here. People like to wonder what's the best thing we can do to support Score North, Purple Daily, Judd's Hockey Show, Mackie, Judd, and Declan, etc. It's by helping out our sponsors. It's in the link to the YouTube channel. Both Livea and Popcorn are. Go check them out. Popcorn and popcorn.com.
Speaking of guys who, and I don't know if this would qualify Declan as getting your swagger back, but you know what I did like, as bad as the Ryan Hartman goal on Hellenbach was, and it was a terrible goal. That's a brutal goal. It's a 5-hole goal. It's a unscreened goal, eminently stoppable. I got to give him credit. He shot the puck. Ryan Hartman shot the puck. He came in. He had Zuccarello to his left. And I mean, we saw it again tonight, and the Jets are guilty of this as well. Trying to set up these perfect plays to find a shooting lane. Drive me crazy, right? Hartman came in. He looked off Hellenbach a little bit, so it looked like he might have passed or been planning to pass. He didn't. He shot. And, you know, that is, again, if this is where they're at right now, that is exactly what they have to do. So do I believe that Hartman's the best guy to be on that first line? Probably not. But I do think that it is incredibly important that you start to at least take some shots. Because guess what? Hellenbach should have stopped that puck. Like, there's no excuse for it. Yeah. But who cares? He didn't, right? And you don't score that goal if you're trying to, set up a Harlem Globetrotters type of goal. So that to me was, in both the case of the Foligno goal and the Hartman goal off the rush, the lesson there is this team's not talented enough to try and set up pretty goals. Take the shots that you can get, and guess what? Hockey's a weird sport, as everybody says. It's a weird game. Well, a weird game does not require you trying to set up the sexy play.
Right. And, you know, to Hartman's point, just like we were talking about Foligno, that's another guy who has come back from injury and just seems like he's playing a lot better hockey. Is he the same again? Is he the same guy that scored 30 plus for you last season? No, but is he more of that reliable role player that he was prior to last season, where he kind of bursted on the scene offensively? He's looked a lot more like that type of guy. And he seems to be a little bit more comfortable in that middle. And I know we've kind of said you can throw almost any center in the middle of Kaprizov and Zuccarello. And look, Sam Steele hasn't been able to get in the lineup, so it's not just anyone anymore. I mean, Sam Steele's been an afterthought for the most part. So it's good for Hartman to kind of try to find his game. And to be honest, Judd, if they're going to play, you know, this style and Judd's identity that he likes to see from this Wild team, that when they're playing this style, it's sustainable and they can win playoff games. Well, when Ryan Hartman is playing up to his level, he can play into that style, right? It fits in. It's complementary.
Absolutely.
And instead of trying to be a superstar, instead of overcompensating offensively when he doesn't have the skill, it actually complements Ryan Hartman's skill set a lot more to play this type of playoff and gritty style that the Wild are going to have to play if they want to make a deep playoff run.
Noah's comment here, we should talk about, because it's not incorrect. And no, Dex and I do not work for Bally Sports North. But it says Kirill gets abused every single game and never gets, or draws, I guess is the word, not gets, never draws penalties. He got abused again last night. What was the play? I think it was in the second period, where he basically got abused, no call. Tonight, Logan Stanley's initial hit on Kirill from behind was not a penalty, but when he puts his full weight and basically drives him to the ice, I think you can find a penalty there against a superstar. Noah's point is a good one. If Kirill Kaprizov was a fourth line wing, if Kirill Kaprizov's name was Mason Shaw, I wouldn't expect a lot. I'd be like, too bad. Didn't draw that. Perhaps he gets hurt, and you're like, That is too bad. But I guess I am a little bit perplexed how a guy who is not a rookie and a guy who has established himself as a, at least a top 10 player, I don't think there's a debate there. He is not the MVP of the league, but he definitely could be a perennial candidate. How does he not draw more penalties? Like, how do the officials not? Kirill Kaprizov being hurt, not only is bad for the Wild, it's bad for the league. So Noah's point is a good one, and I think it deserves a little bit of examination. And I know Kirill is tough, and I know Kirill can protect himself, and I know ordinarily Kirill gets up, so like he doesn't whine and complain and moan. But I would think all of those things would actually cause officials to protect him more.
Two things. Number one, a little update on Kaprizov from Dean Evison in the postgame. Michael Russo tweeting out, Evison has no update on Kaprizov, but he is hearing he hasn't had a full examination yet, and that will happen in Minnesota on tomorrow's off day. The Wild off tomorrow, I believe, practice Thursday, in San Jose Saturday. Is that right? So
they are in San Jose.
So off day tomorrow, Thursday, practice Friday. So there'll be more of an update on Kirill's status when they land in St. Paul. Quick little charter jet from Winnipeg to St. Paul, and then they'll get an update from that. On the no calls front, there's times, and not to turn this into flagrant howls, which you can find also on this YouTube channel with Phil Mackey and Kyle Tiggy, where they break down awesome Timberwolves content. There's times where Cat doesn't get the calls, and you can say, like he does deserve some of those calls, but at the same time, it's justified why he doesn't get the calls, because he kind of has an attitude and this style of that he's not going to be able to get those calls because he whines and complains a lot.
Right.
That's not Kirill, right? It's not like Kirill or even Dean, and every hockey coach is just going to get pissed no matter what. So I'll even leave Dean out of this analogy. But Kirill is not someone who is wailing his arms and in a referee's face ever. If anything's ever a problem, it's always Spurgeon, the captain, that goes over there to talk to the referee. It's not like this guy is doing anything to warrant getting no calls. And I think that's the bizarre part. And a superstar player, and a player that typically of that caliber, like Kirill and like other stars in the NHL, kind of get more of the calls than if it would happen, to your point, against a Mason Shaw or a Connor Dewar. And for whatever reason, he doesn't. And sometimes as Minnesota sports fans, I think we sometimes they're working against us, right? They're hurting our star player. But it is, to me, a little bizarre that a superstar and a player of Kirill's nature doesn't get the benefit of the doubt, especially in a situation like that.
Yeah, because he doesn't dive. He doesn't stay down. He's tough as nails. Like when he leaves, it's a problem. Tonight's a problem. Like, this is not a, now he's hurt again. He doesn't leave games. So I am a little bit surprised that the league doesn't do more to protect him, because he deserves it. And believe me, I cannot say that about a lot of players in franchise history. Like, there's been, for the majority, I'm like, yeah, they get what they get. So like, for us to talk about it on this show, it is a big deal. And it wouldn't have saved him from being hurt, I don't think, by any means, but at least it would have delivered hey, this guy deserves that call. You can't pile on that call. And I think people who watch this show know that we rarely complain about officials, but Kirill Kaprizov not being protected is not good. Like, it's fun. He's fun to watch. He's great to watch. And quite frankly, I have no desire to watch the Wild without him. So, let's wrap up here, Dex, by talking about special teams, okay?
Yep.
Let's talk about the penalty kill, first of all. I believe the stat now, 34 of the last 35 power plays against have been killed off. This is damn impressive. And I think it's part and parcel of the system now. Like, I think it goes hand in hand with the fact that this team is, for the most part, aside from like the second period tonight, playing a pretty damn good lockdown game. But, again, that to me is a sign of the progress that this team has made. And it's a sign of, penalty killing, I'm sure, sucks. It doesn't look like it's any fun. You're blocking shots. You're sucking wind. There's not a lot about it that looks attractive. But, with guys like Dewar and Mason Shaw and Hartman, and just go down that list. And you know what, too, Dex? Without Brodin. Because ordinarily, the first two defensemen to start the penalty kill had been Spurgeon and Brodin. And so if you're doing what this team is doing without a guy like Brodin, who makes a tremendous amount of like unappreciated plays, 34 of 35 is really impressive.
Yeah, and it's not a sexy thing to do. And the Wild have always, for the most part, have had a really good, healthy penalty kill and guys that can do that. And your best guy's got to be your goaltender. And Marc-Andre certainly has showed up a ton tonight, and 46 saves, which I believe was the most he has faced, or any Wild goalie has faced all season. So you need your goaltender to always be your best penalty kill, but that's also a product of the system. And when you got great penalty killers like Shaw and Dewar and everyone else on this team that can just sell out in front of their goaltender to block those shots and make it a lot easier on them, it's going to make life even that much more easy to kill off those 2 minutes. And conversely, the power play again, one goal, Judd, I think the last 9 games. And
it's been really regressing.
It's obvious that they brought in Klingberg to help kind of waken that up, and they've kind of have put Kalen Addison to the side, the saying that they don't want him on the ice if they're going to have John Klingberg on the ice. And at this point, Addison's biggest thing that he brings is power play prowess. And I get that fitting the jigsaw puzzle, if you will, their defensive pairings, it's going to be difficult to have both Klingberg and Addison active in your pairs. But if Addison is the driving force to getting your power play going, which is what he has done all season, well, then you might have to go to the drawing board and figure out how can we play both of these guys, and how can we also help them? How can they help us get the power play going as well?
If Kirill is out, I want to see.
Oh, I see what you're going to do here.
The second, no, I'm not going to actually plug Kalen in because I thought about it, but I can't do it yet. But anyway, if he's out, here's what I want to see. I want to see the second power play get a chance. There was at least one tonight where I saw the first power play stayed on the ice the entire power play, and they had the puck cleared. So it wasn't like we're standing there and we're not really tired, so we're just going to eat up the entire power play. It was we're not going to leave the ice, which if you're red hot, okay, that's cool. And I know there's a temptation that with Kaprizov, not to take him off the ice, I'm sure, on the power play, Declan. But if he's hurt, I do not want to see, I don't know who replaces Kaprizov, but I don't want to see that group just stay out there in perpetuity. You got to get your second group out there and at least give them a shot. Because, we're talking like 9 to 10 games now. We're talking 9 to 10 games. So here's the stat that Bally showed at the end, too, which is super impressive here. And this, again, is a playoff thing, Dex. Most one-goal games since January 26th. This is a graphic that they put up late in the third period. The Wild has now 15. Just for context, the Flames, Golden Knights, Islanders have 10. The Wild has 15. They are 10, 2, and 3. So
they're coming, man.
Well, provided Kaprizov's not hurt, they're coming. And provided that Dean can do a little bit more playoff juggling when the playoffs get here. Like, I do need to see more once the playoffs start. That becomes, Dean's tendency to leave things be at times, I think, is going to bite this team right in the breezers if and when it's in the playoffs. But for right now, it's working. And, again, aside from a game in hand for Dallas, they're tied for first place. And a month and a half ago, I would have told you they had no chance.
Last thing, without opening up too much of more of a can of worms here on Judd's Hockey Show, but can you remember a time, and this is, I don't think, a bad thing. This is not a backhanded compliment to the Wild pursuing the top spot. Can you remember a time that the Western Conference also looked this weak? Not even this week, because there's a lot of good teams. I shouldn't say that, but there isn't a couple teams that have separated themselves.
It's not a Colorado from last year.
It's not a Colorado from last year. Like, Judd, there's like 4 or 5 teams in the East that I could legit say they have a good chance of winning the Cup. In the West, it's a shrug emoji. I legitimately have no idea who could win the Cup in the West.
Okay, let's go back. I think the answer to your question, and this was a Wild non-starter because they just weren't that good. I think the answer to your question is the bubble, right? Off that season, Dallas made the finals.
Yeah.
And the West wasn't. But last year, the Avs were the class of the league. So, last year it certainly felt like the Wild should have been able to get by the Blues, and unfortunately they didn't even come close. But I would say the last time was the bubble because Dallas made the finals, and Colorado was coming at that time. but they weren't there yet. And so that's probably the last time. But this is the first time, and again, this all hinges on Kaprizov's health. With Kaprizov healthy, this is the first time I feel like it's, and I'll probably sound dumb, so save this. This would be the first time in a long time I feel like the Wild could make a run, like be competitive. With the way they're playing right now with Kaprizov. I'm with you. If he's out, you're done. You're not going to get, you know, this style can only take you so far. And keep in mind, my 2003 comp is that Gaborik wasn't as good at Kaprizov, but Gaborik was really damn good.
Right.
So like you don't have if Kaprizov's out, you don't have the manpower, the firepower. You can't replace that because he can score that big goal. And also remember, while Fiala disappeared against the Blues in the playoffs last year, Kaprizov was genius. Brilliant. So, but it's interesting. It's going to be fun. I just hope that we find out that Kirill has a slightly like tweaked groin or something and is out for a week or so and can come back, because that would be a real bummer to Judd's hockey show.
Yeah. Then another
Kirill Kaprizov is.
And then another early vacation for Dex. I mean, I'm already going to Vegas this weekend. I took time off 2 weeks ago, and then all of a sudden I'm joining the boys, the Wild, to play more golf by April, May somewhere. It could be a whole thing.
You could join the Spittin' Chicklets crew.
I could join Spittin' Chicklets. I
for
pound
playoff
a
analysis.
lot of free advertising here. I pound a lot of Pink Whitney on the golf course, so I'll fit in just fine right there. Hit the subscribe button for
By the way, Pink Whitney wants to sponsor Judd's Hockey Show. Pink
means.
Whitney, we're right
Please.
here. If you have a business and you're saying to yourself right now, you know what, I'd like to get some promotion. I like Judd's Hockey Show. Send Dex a note,
please,
because I'll probably lose the note. So send Dex the note.
Please do. Hit the subscribe button for Daily Minnesota Sports Entertainment. We got some scoops coming at you tomorrow morning with our buddy Darren Doogie Wolfson. Of course, plenty of Vikings content on Purple Daily as well. This is Judd's Hockey Show, so hit that subscribe button too if you want some Minnesota Wild content in your feed. And remember to pass, shoot, score, and hit the subscribe button.
There's no room for petty bull.